Hey everybody, today we're going to look at procedures. And our goal here is to be able to write a good procedure. As we're moving ahead with our own science experiments, we need to understand how are we going to write down what we're doing so that our procedure can be repeatable. So, now that might not seem like it's that hard. You might be thinking all we got to do is write down what we're doing and it's easy. But oftentimes that leads to confusing and lots of misunderstandings. And so let's look at what it takes to make a good procedure. So we've observed and wondered, we've come up with a question, we've written a hypothesis, and now we're in the plan and test. And if we're going to write a plan, we need to lay out what we're going to do before we do it. We need to lay out this is the steps that we are going to take. Procedures are the step-by-step instructions on how to run your experiment. And anytime you do an experiment, you need to lay out your procedures first. You can't just do things and then hope you can remember all the steps you took. So it's important to lay those out ahead of time. My general guideline is you do and write your procedures so well that your ELA teacher could come and take over your project at any moment. If you were to design an experiment and you're like, oh man, I'm out sick, you could send an email to your ELA teacher and say, hey, here's my instructions, go run my test. And it would be run exactly the same way that you would run it yourself. Surprisingly, most people leave out little details. Well, obviously, I'm going to put the water in there, or oh, of course, I'm going to repeat it, or, put the dirt in first. Those little things that you just kind of assume are important. So, there are four main things that we need to think about when we make a good procedure. Most importantly, the steps need to be simple and easy to follow. Don't write big long paragraphs. Filler words saying, the next thing to do in my experiment that would make it really good, all of those words, people need to process them. You don't want to have all of the filler words in. You want short, simple, easy to follow directions. Next, you want numbers. Number your steps so that people can remember where to go to next after they carry out what you're telling them to do. I've done with step number 2, well, then I'm going to step 3. And that makes it a lot easier to follow. And steps don't get missed. The third thing that we need to remember, start with an action word. Use verbs. Again, all of those filler things like after that, you should, that just gets confusing. Put, pour, mix. These are all action words that will tell the person what to do. And then lastly, you need to add detail. I can't just tell someone to measure. I need to tell them, well, what units are they measuring in? How are they measuring? Where do they start measuring? And so all the little details and important measurements, those really make a big difference. So, my mom is a FACS teacher, or was, she's retired. And so, oftentimes we've compared and said, well, when we tell students how to do a lab, it's really kind of similar. And so science procedures are a lot like recipes. I want you to take a look at 2 recipes, and I want you to look at the difference and tell me, just kind of reflect, which one would you want to follow? On one side, we've got this one. Oh man. All right, in a 5-quart or larger heavy base pot, set over medium heat, cook the bacons. There's steps all blended together. If I get done with the step in here and I go to the stove and I work on it, it's going to be hard to find my spot. I don't even like looking at it. It's just confusing, and I would be frustrated if I was trying to follow that recipe. On the other side, whoa, we've got simple directions. Heat this, add this, pour in these things. Turn heat to low. It's simple, it's basic, and it's going to give us easy to follow directions. So let's look at one more example and see if we can find these things, what's good and what's bad. Take a look at these directions. What do you see that doesn't work here? Remember, there are four key things that we need to think about. Now let's look at a much better procedure. Same product, same thing written out. Hopefully, you can see what has greatly improved. First thing that jumped out to me was the numbers. I don't have to go through and look and go, where's my next step? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When I get to 7, I know I'm done. Next, no filler words. Everything is starting with an action verb. Push, take, push, move, release, record, repeat. I know what step I need to take. And there's details. Step 7 doesn't say just repeat, because then the poor person taking their temperature might repeat, 5, 6, 7 times. It just says repeat 2 times. Okay, well, that's easy. I also like step 5. It doesn't say hold the button, release the button. Then when you're feeling like your fingers getting tired and you're pretty sure that you're done, it just says release the button. Simple. No extra words, no filler, no. Then after you're done with measuring, it's just release the button. So hopefully you notice that these steps were simple, they're numbered, they have action verbs, and they have important details. Today you're going to get a practice form. The form isn't that hard. I'll be honest, some of the directions are bad examples on purpose. That way you get to see, can you find these 4 things? It wouldn't be the worst idea to have this page open so you remember, oh, these are the things that we need. So go through and fill out the form. Good luck, everybody.